Canada cannot rely on the US, a country that is trampling on its own democracy at home and abusing other democracies abroad. So, Carney goes to China, the world's second largest economy and already Canada's second largest trading partner in spite of a series of disputes. And he resets trade relations in a clear-eyed way. We take the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. To put it simply, Carney largely resolves an outstanding dispute from the summer of 2024. Trudeau had imposed 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs in lockstep with Biden. China retaliated. The world has certainly changed since. It now makes no sense at all to march in lockstep with the US at the expense of Canadian farmers and fishers, if it ever did. Yes, of course there are reasons for caution. Human rights, authoritarianism, and there are risks considering China's recent history of weaponizing trade against us. But it's also true that as we work to double Canada's non-US exports, China is a piece of that puzzle. Now, many Conservative premiers embrace the deal. Welcome news. Pleased to see the reduction of tariffs. A positive day. But Ford and Poilievre, well, they finally found common ground in uneducated bluster. Poilievre tells us the agreement will jeopardize our security and auto jobs. Ford called it a totally unacceptable, terrible miscalculated decision. And he even went as far as to talk about spy cars. So let's actually look at the deal. China significantly drops its retaliatory tariffs on billions of dollars of agricultural products from Canada. Canola, lobsters, crabs, peas. Yes, it's tentative. Yes, an 84% drop is significant, but not enough on canola, so room to improve. Yes, pork should be part of the deal too. There's obviously more work to do, but it cannot be overstated how welcome this is for working farmers and fishers today. In return, Canada gives up very little. China is the world's largest producer of EVs. We do not have EV auto manufacturers here to protect. Canada moves off the 100% EV tariff imposed in the summer of 2024, and in its place will be a quota of 49,000 Chinese-made EVs at a much reduced tariff rate of 6.1%. That quota then grows slowly over 5 years. It'll mean cheaper prices for Canadian consumers, and it'll mean an opportunity for potential new investment in Canada's auto industry. Ford called it a flood of Chinese EVs, except that the quota corresponds to volumes in the 2023 year, and it represents less than 3% of the Canadian market for new vehicles. Ford tells us it's going to be a big problem for the existing auto manufacturers, except that half of the quota is reserved for affordable EVs with an import price of $35,000, a car that does not exist in Canada today. Consider that Europe has over 20 EV models selling for less than $40,000 Canadian. Canada has one barely. And EV adoption is booming everywhere except in North America. More broadly, the numbers don't lie. The modest number of EVs Canadians currently buy just are not made here in Canada. Hopefully that changes, and that brings us back to the deal. As American auto manufacturers abandon their Canadian promises, the agreement explicitly emphasizes an expectation that will see Chinese investment through joint ventures led by Canadian companies to create jobs in Canada, auto manufacturing careers for Canadian workers. And it's all subject to review in 3 years to gauge that progress. The Prime Minister rightly articulated it as an opportunity for Ontario workers, for Canada, done in a controlled way with a modest start. And spy cars? I can't believe I'm going to quote Danielle Smith, but she's right. Canadian security authorities will take any measures necessary to ensure all vehicles and other products sold into Canada pose no threat to our nation's privacy laws or national security interests. As if Elon Musk is so much better than China anyway. Now, there is the risk, of course, that will piss off the Americans. Ford raised this too, forgetting about his own ad, I guess. But Trump, for his part, called the deal a good thing and said if you can get a deal with China, you should do that. Now, it's true, of course, not everyone south of the border felt the same way. Nikki Haley, former U.S. ambassador to the UN, she wrote, "Canada cozying up to China to welcome more investment puts all of North America at serious risk." I would phrase that a little differently. Canada's effort to reset relations in a modest way with China is a direct and reasonable response to the vicious incompetence of the U.S. that threatens us all.